Every year you spray your garden, and every year the insects come back like you never did. That's not bad luck, it's design. Because most people are trying to kill pests in a system where nature has already solved the problem, quietly, permanently, and without chemicals. Across centuries of farming in Asia, Europe, and the Americas, gardeners relied on something far more effective than sprays. Plants that defend other plants. Some repel insects. Some disrupt their senses. Some turn your garden into a place pests simply avoid. And yet most modern gardeners ignore all of it and keep buying bottles. Today, 20 of those plants. Not trends, not myths. Proven biology. Even 5 will change how your garden behaves. Let's start from 20. Number 20, marigolds. These are the most underestimated guard in any garden. Marigolds do something that almost no other plant does. They actively repel pests while simultaneously attracting beneficial insects. It is a magic trick that the gardening industry has not been able to patent. Tagetes species produce compounds called thiophenies in their root systems and foliage. These compounds are toxic to nematodes, whiteflies, and several species of beetles. The smell repels mosquitoes and other flying insects so effectively that marigolds have been planted around homes, gardens, and public spaces for generations. Long before aerosol sprays existed, gardeners were already using marigolds as a living insect barrier. But here is the thing that makes this remarkable. Marigolds are not just repelling, they are also attracting. The flowers draw beneficial insects like parasitic wasps and hoverflies. These insects lay their eggs in the marigolds. When the eggs hatch, the larvae feed on aphids and mites. You planted a single flower species. It repels pests. It attracts predators of pests. It flowers for 5 months. It costs almost nothing. Yet gardeners spend hundreds on spray bottles and powders. Many gardeners make one mistake with marigolds. They plant 1 or 2 flowers at the edge of a large garden and expect miracles. That is not how companion planting works. The real power of marigolds comes from distribution. Instead of placing them in one corner, scatter them throughout your garden. Put them between tomato plants. Place them near peppers. Add them along pathways and borders. Now the repellent compounds are not coming from a single location. They are being released throughout the entire growing area. Professional organic growers often use marigolds as living barriers around high-value crops. They know something most home gardeners overlook. Pest pressure is often reduced when insects become confused about where their preferred host plants are located. The stronger the diversity of scents in a garden, the harder it becomes for pests to find exactly what they want. That means marigolds are not just repelling insects. They are disrupting the insect's ability to navigate. And that is a completely different level of protection. If you already grow marigolds, comment below and tell me what pests you have noticed disappear from your garden. But the next plant is something completely different. It will blow your mind. Number 19, Basil Ocimum basilicum, the mosquito eraser that sits on your windowsill. The fragrance alone repels mosquitoes so effectively that Southeast Asian gardeners have been rubbing crushed basil on their skin for centuries before synthetic repellents existed. Basil has been grown beside homes across Africa, Asia, and the Mediterranean for centuries. People noticed long ago that mosquitoes seemed less interested in areas where basil was growing. Modern research has since confirmed what traditional gardeners already suspected. The plant produces aromatic compounds that many flying insects simply do not enjoy being around. The results showed repellency rates equivalent to commercial DEET products. But this was a plant. A plant you can eat with dinner while simultaneously protecting yourself from mosquitoes. The active compounds are linalool and methylcinnamate. These compounds are volatile. They release into the air around the plant. A single basil plant sitting on a patio reduces flying insect activity in a 3-meter radius. Multiple plants create a perimeter that insects actively avoid. The benefit compounds increase as the plant is bruised or handled. Every time you pinch a leaf for cooking, you are simultaneously releasing the repellent compounds into the air. You get fresh basil for dinner and mosquito protection as a byproduct. If you have basil growing, you have passive mosquito protection that you have been ignoring this whole time. Number 18, mint. This is that aggressive ally that cannot kill you. Mint does something that most gardeners realize only after they plant it. It spreads everywhere. They panic. They try to remove it. They fail. The mint wins. A single plant can spread surprisingly fast under the right conditions. Before long, what started as a small patch becomes an entire colony. But when contained properly, this aggressive growth becomes an advantage. Imagine having a plant that constantly expands its protective scent zone year after year. Most pest-repelling plants stay roughly the same size. Mint keeps increasing its coverage. The result is a larger and larger area where pests become uncomfortable. And because mint tolerates regular harvesting, you can continuously cut it back for teas, cooking, and drying without reducing its effectiveness. In fact, fresh cuts often release even stronger aromas into the surrounding air. So every time you harvest mint, you are essentially refreshing your natural pest barrier. But what if that aggressiveness is exactly the point? Mentha species produce spearmint and peppermint compounds that repel flies, fleas, mosquitoes, and several beetle species. The plant spreads by underground runners, establishing itself across an entire bed within one season. Every inch of that bed is now protected. Mint became so closely associated with pest control that it was traditionally planted near doorways, storage areas, and food gardens. Not because people understood the chemistry, because they observed the results. A line of mint around your garden perimeter becomes a barrier that rodents think twice about crossing. Mint also grows vigorously in poor soil conditions where most things struggle. Plant it in the difficult corner you have been ignoring. Within 2 seasons, that corner is covered in pest-repelling foliage. Subscribe right now because the next plant is one that was used as an official pesticide in Victorian gardens. Number 17, rosemary, Rosmarinus officinalis. The scent of rosemary tells most flying insects to go somewhere else. The repellent compounds are rosmarinic acid and camphor. These are the same compounds that make rosemary valuable in cooking. Your pest protection is indistinguishable from your culinary herb. Rosemary repels mosquitoes, flies, moths, and several species of beetles. A single plant in your vegetable garden reduces pest pressure measurably. Multiple plants create zones where flying insects avoid landing. Burning dried rosemary stems produces smoke that repels insects from outdoor spaces. The practice is at least 2,000 years old. Medieval monasteries burned rosemary to purify air and repel insects simultaneously. What they were doing was creating an insect barrier using something that grew in their garden. Rosemary is also incredibly drought tolerant. It grows in poor soil. It requires minimal water. You plant it once, and it protects your garden for years. One plant can live for 20 years, providing consistent pest repellency the entire time. Number 16, lavender. Lavender produces linalool, the same compound basil produces. But lavender produces it in higher concentrations. The fragrance is so intensely irritating to insects that several species will not land on a lavender plant at all. Flying insects detect lavender from distance and alter their flight path to avoid it. Multiple studies have confirmed that even the proximity of lavender plants reduces flying insect activity in adjacent beds. The insects are not entering the space at all. Lavender also repels moths and certain butterfly species. If you have clothes moths in your home, dried lavender in closets and drawers repels them. The protection lasts for months. You do not need chemical mothballs. Plant lavender around the perimeter of vegetable gardens, herb gardens, or raised beds. The insects that would target your plants encounter the lavender first and leave. They move to gardens that are easier. And here is where things get interesting, because the next plant is something most people do not realize is actively working for them. Number 15, nasturtiums. Nasturtium is planted specifically to attract pests away from plants you actually want to grow. It is called a trap crop or sacrificial plant. It attracts aphids, whiteflies, and certain beetles so effectively that these insects prefer the nasturtium to your vegetables. The pests congregate on the nasturtium. You do not treat the nasturtium. You simply remove and discard the infested plant. The pests are gone from your garden. Your actual crops never needed a treatment. The beauty is that nasturtium is ornamental. You are not removing something ugly. You are removing a beautiful plant that has served its purpose. The flowers are edible. They add peppery flavor to salads. You can eat the benefit it provided by growing it. A healthier strategy is often directing pests towards something you are willing to sacrifice. That is exactly what nasturtiums do. Instead of fighting insects everywhere, you are concentrating them into a predictable location. Now, monitoring becomes easier, management becomes easier, and beneficial insects know exactly where to find food. Nasturtium also attracts beneficial insects like parasitic wasps. While the wasps are visiting the aphid-infested nasturtium, they are laying eggs. The wasp larvae will feed on the aphids. You have created an entire food chain on a single ornamental plant. This strategy has been used in agriculture for centuries. Modern synthetic agriculture abandoned it because chemicals seemed faster. But here is what they never tell you. The plants that were replaced never stopped working. And number 14 is proof of exactly that. Number 14. Garlic, the pest barrier no one expects. Garlic produces allicin, the compound responsible for its characteristic smell and taste. Allicin is volatile. It releases into the air around the plant. Certain insects detect this compound and actively avoid the area. Garlic repels aphids, spider mites, and several beetles. The repellency increases as garlic approaches maturity and begins to senesce. The compounds become more concentrated in late spring and early summer. Garlic also produces allelopathic compounds that suppress soil pathogens and some weed species. You are planting something that kills pests through multiple mechanisms: airborne repellency, soil pathogen suppression, nematode reduction. Garlic has been used as a protective plant for so long that nobody knows exactly when the practice began. Records from ancient Egypt, Greece, China, and India all describe garlic being grown near valuable crops. But here's the problem with garlic. You have to replant it to it every single year. The cloves go in the ground. The plant does its job. You harvest it. Then, next autumn, you have to go through the process again. It is perpetual replanting, unless you know about the next plant. A plant that does almost everything garlic does, but never needs replanting. Ever. Number 13. Chives. Chives are related to garlic and onions. They produce similar sulfur compounds that repel insects. But chives have advantages that garlic does not. Chives solve a problem gardeners have faced for centuries. Most pest-repelling plants need to be replanted. Chives simply return. Every spring, they begin repelling pests immediately. No replanting, no reestablishing. The same plant, year after year. Chives also regrow after cutting. Cut the leaves for use in the kitchen, and the plant responds by producing more foliage. Each time you cut, you're disrupting the plant and releasing more of the repellent compounds into the air. Chives are also cold hardy. They survive winters that kill most other repellent plants. In cold climates, chives are one of the few pest repellent plants that survives year-round. Drop a comment if you are starting to see that your herb garden is actually a pest control system that you never realized was working. Number 12. Pyrethrum, the Victorian pesticide that came from a flower. This is the one I mentioned, Chrysanthemum cinerariifolium, the flower that transformed pest control history. Pyrethrum flowers contain natural compounds called pyrethrins. These compounds are neurotoxins to insects, but have essentially no toxicity to mammals. In the 1800s, crushed pyrethrum flowers were used as the primary botanical insecticide across Europe and North America. It was the most effective pesticide available before synthetic chemistry. Growing pyrethrum means you're growing the pesticide itself. The flowers contain the active compounds. Harvest the flowers, dry them, crush them. The resulting powder became one of the most widely used botanical insect controls in the world. Long before modern pesticides existed, gardeners were already observing that certain plants naturally defended themselves from insect attack. Pyrethrum became famous because those natural defenses could be harvested and used elsewhere. Scientists eventually isolated the active compounds and studied exactly how they affected insects. A single pyrethrum plant produces dozens of flowers per season. A small bed can produce enough material to treat a large garden. You are not buying packaged products. You are producing your own pest control at the point of use. Most people think Victorian gardeners discovered the best pest control plants. They did not. They just rediscovered what ancient Romans had already figured out. And the next plant on this list proves it. It was so important to Roman households that nobody dared grow a garden without it. Number 11. Rue so important was rue in ancient Rome that many households considered a garden incomplete without it. It was that plant ancient Romans grew in every garden. It was considered so important to protection that it appeared in household protection charms alongside salt and other protective substances. Ruta graveolens produces compounds that repel certain insects, but the mechanism is different from most other plants on this list. Rue produces compounds that insects find directly distasteful. They land on the plant, taste the compounds, and leave immediately. Rue repels fleas, flies, and several beetle species. The repellency increases in heat. By late summer, when insect pressure is highest, rue is at peak effectiveness. The plant was nearly lost from cultivation when modern pesticides arrived, but gardeners who maintained heirloom plants kept rue growing. Now it is having a renaissance as people recognize that chemical-free gardens need plants that actually work. And here is where it gets serious, because the next plant is something almost nobody realizes they should be growing. Number 10. Tansy was as common in gardens as roses. Tansy was once so common that many gardeners assumed it would always be part of the landscape. Every household maintained a tansy plant or dried tansy material for pest control. Then it became fashionable to have clean gardens. Tansy fell from favor. This was that aggressive repellent that gardens used to rely on. Tanacetum vulgare produces thujone and other volatile compounds that repel flies, mosquitoes, moths, and several beetle species. The smell is powerful enough that many people describe tansy as having an unpleasant odor. To insects, that odor is a stop sign. Tansy spreads aggressively. It establishes quickly. It tolerates poor soil. It requires essentially no care once planted. You want a plant that spreads fast and repels pests? Tansy does both. But dried tansy has one limitation. You have to actually dry it. You have to store it. You have to replace it when it loses potency. It requires work. The next plant does something similar, but it does not require any of that. It sits in your garden alive, evergreen, working year-round without a single thing you have to do to maintain it. Number 9. Sage. Sage produces several volatile compounds that repel moths, flies, and certain beetles. The compounds are the same ones that give sage its distinctive flavor. Your culinary benefit is inseparable from your pest protection benefit. Sage is also evergreen in mild climates. It provides year-round pest suppression rather than seasonal. A single plant planted in autumn is still actively repelling pests the following spring without any replanting. Sage is also allelopathic. It suppresses certain weed species around it. You are getting weed suppression and pest repellency from the same plant. Historical gardens always included sage. It was considered essential. The decline of sage as a pest control plant happened only because synthetic pesticides made the need seem obsolete, but the plant never lost its effectiveness. Sage has been essential in serious gardens for centuries, and its effectiveness has never faded. But number 8 has a structural advantage that sage simply does not have. It grows low to the ground and creates a physical scent barrier that insects must cross before reaching anything else. Most of them turn back before they get through. Number 8. Thyme. Thyme produces thymol and carvacrol. These compounds repel a wide range of insects. But thyme has an advantage that most repellent plants do not. It grows low to the ground. By planting thyme as a border or edge plant, you are creating a living barrier that insects must cross before reaching your main plants. The thyme repels them. Most insects turn back. Some of the population makes it through, but the population pressure is substantially reduced. Thyme also grows in poor soil. It is extremely drought tolerant. It responds well to cutting and produces more foliage when harvested. You get fresh culinary thyme and maintained pest repellency simultaneously. Thyme creates a low barrier that most insects turn back from before they ever reach your vegetables. But number 7 operates on a completely different level. Entire agricultural systems have been built around it for thousands of years, and most Western gardeners have never once considered growing it. Number 7, neem. Neem produces azadirachtin. This compound is a potent insect repellent and growth disruptor. It interferes with insect feeding and reproduction. Neem is so effective that it has been used in agriculture for thousands of years and has been studied extensively by modern research. Neem works on a broader range of insect species than most plants on this list. It repels or kills aphids, whiteflies, spider mites, beetles, and caterpillars. The effectiveness is remarkable. The challenge with neem is that it is a tropical tree. In cold climates, you must grow it in a container and bring it inside for winter. But in warm climates, a single established neem tree provides pest suppression for an entire property. What makes neem remarkable is not simply that it works. It is that entire agricultural systems have been built around it for centuries. You harvest leaves and bark, extract the oil, spray on plants. The treatment is organic, non-toxic, and remarkably effective. If you live in a warm climate and have never tried growing neem, this might change your entire approach to pest management. Neem does not just repel, it disrupts feeding, reproduction, and development at the same time. But number 6 produces compounds so bitter that certain insects refuse to land on it at all. It requires almost nothing to grow, and it has been protecting gardens in the harshest conditions for centuries. Number 6, Artemisia. Artemisia species produce compounds so bitter that insects find them almost unbearable. They avoid the plant entirely. Certain species of moths, flies, and beetles will not land on Artemisia. Artemisia also repels soil-dwelling pests and nematodes. The compounds are so allelopathic that some Artemisia species suppress nearby plant growth. Use it as a border or perimeter plant, not mixed into beds. Artemisia is also incredibly drought tolerant and grows in poor soil. It asks for almost nothing. You plant it once, and it protects your garden for years. Artemisia produces some of the most powerful allelopathic compounds in the plant world. But number 5 works through a completely different mechanism. It does not repel pests at all. It brings in the things that hunt them, and the results are far more effective than repellency alone. Number 5, borage. Borage attracts parasitic wasps, hoverflies, and bees. These insects do not repel pests. They prey on pests. Borage brings the hunters into your garden. When the parasitic wasps find borage, they lay eggs in the flower nectar areas. When the eggs hatch, the larvae have a direct food source. Meanwhile, those same wasps are actively hunting aphids and other pests for protein. Borage also attracts bees. The flowers produce enormous amounts of nectar. Bees visit constantly. A healthy bee population pollinates your crops and also preys on certain soft-bodied insects. Plant borage throughout your garden. It is not repelling pests. It is attracting the natural predators of pests. If you are gaining maximum value from this, like this video and subscribe right now, because the next plant is something almost every gardener already grows, but has no idea what it is actually doing. Number 4, dill. Dill attracts parasitic wasps, hoverflies, and beneficial beetles. The flowers are a magnet for beneficial insects. Dill also attracts certain pests. Fennel can attract caterpillars, but the parasitic wasps that hatch on fennel are far more valuable than the caterpillars you lose. The trade-off is positive. Farmers noticed something unusual whenever dill was allowed to flower. Beneficial insects arrived in large numbers, not days later, often within hours. Plant dill as a border or edge plant. Let it flower. Let the beneficial insects come. Your pest population crashes because you brought in the hunters. Dill brings in the hunters. But number 3 goes further. It repels certain pests, attracts the predators of others, and gives you something edible at the same time. 3 functions from one plant, and it looks beautiful doing all of it. Number 3, calendula. Calendula attracts beneficial insects, while simultaneously repelling certain pests. The flowers are edible, the plant is beautiful, and it is actively managing pest populations. Calendula petals can be eaten fresh. The flowers attract bees and parasitic wasps. The plant repels certain beetles and moths. You are getting aesthetics, food, and pest management from a single plant. Plant calendula throughout your vegetable garden. Let it flower continuously. The beneficial insects will handle most of your pest pressure. Calendula is doing 3 jobs at once, and most gardeners only notice one of them. But number 2 does something on a completely different scale. Most people grow it purely for looks. What it is actually doing to the pest population around it will surprise you. Number 2, sunflowers. Sunflowers attract insects away from smaller, more valuable crops. Pests swarm sunflowers. Your vegetables get protected. In autumn, the sunflower crop is mature. You harvest the seeds. The pests that were on the sunflowers are gone. There is another reason sunflowers work so well. They are highly visible. Many insects naturally gravitate toward taller plants because they are easier to locate from a distance. A towering sunflower acts almost like a beacon. The pests find it first. That means your lower growing vegetables often receive less attention. Meanwhile, beneficial insects are attracted as well. Bees visit the flowers. Predatory insects use the tall stems as resting locations. Birds frequently stop by to feed on seeds and insects. In other words, a sunflower is not just a trap crop. It becomes an entire ecosystem. One plant starts supporting pollinators, predators, birds, and soil health all at the same time. That is an incredible amount of value from something many people grow simply because it looks beautiful. While the story of the sunflower does not end with insects, beneath the surface, the roots are performing another job entirely. Their deep roots break up compacted earth. Their falling leaves add organic matter. You are getting soil improvement, seed harvest, and pest management from one plant. Most people grow sunflowers for the seeds and the color. They have no idea the plant is running an entire pest management operation above and below the soil simultaneously. But number 1 is not a plant at all. It is a system that professional organic farmers have been using for 3,000 years, and it has never failed. Number 1, the 4 corners method. This is not a plant. This is a system, and it is what professional organic farmers use when they want 0 pesticide applications. This system has never failed. Marigolds in the corners, basil between beds, nasturtiums as trap crops, garlic in perimeters. This is not random. This is deliberate layering. The marigolds repel flying insects. The basil repels mosquitoes and flies. The nasturtiums trap remaining pests. The garlic provides additional repellency. Together, these plants create an environment where pests cannot establish. No single plant on this list is powerful enough to solve every problem. That was never the goal. The real breakthrough comes when several plants begin working together. More harvest, 0 chemicals, 0 toxicity. This system has been used in agriculture for 3,000 years. Medieval monasteries used it. Traditional Japanese gardens use it. Organic farms use it. It works because it leverages biological principles rather than fighting against them. You do not eliminate pests. You make your garden inhospitable to pest establishment. 20 plants, 20 solutions, 20 ways to stop the chemical habit and grow things that actually work. If you found these natural pest control plants helpful, let us know in the comments. Which one are you planning to grow first? Want to discover the 20 plants that mice absolutely hate and avoid at all costs? Click on the video on the left. And if you don't want to miss more gardening secrets, natural growing tips, and chemical-free solutions, hit that subscribe button and join us for the next one. We'll see you there.